Alana Zylkowsky is an 18-year industry veteran. She's been a salon owner for 9 years, and she's one of the international project leads for Hair. Corey Gray is a 30-year plus industry veteran, independent colorist, host, and the host of Your Day Off podcast. Today is a special day because Corey just took a trip to Cambodia, and I've been asking him to tell me all about it. And so we decided to get together on a podcast and talk about it. And we're here with Alana, who was there with him and is going to tell us so much more about Hair Aid. I'm super excited to hear all about it and everything else. So welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. My name is Robert Hughes, and I am your host. And today I'm with Alana and Corey. How are y'all doing today?
What's up, Rob? What's up, buddy?
What's
I mean,
up?
you know what? I'm so glad that we chose to like do it in this format. Just to talk like raw about the experience because you don't know much about it. But I also asked Alana to come on because she's such a great lead for the actual project. I was just kind of a guest of hers to be honest. I guess it was like last summer, not 3 months ago, but whatever that was, 15 months ago. Alana reached out to me and she's like, "Hey man, if you want to come to Cambodia, you should sign up to do it." And I did. So welcome my friend Alana, man.
Hello,
Yes, welcome.
hello. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm so excited to chat about my and Corey's experience in Cambodia and tell your listeners a little bit more about Hair Aid and what it is and what we do.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right in. So, Alana, tell us like a little bit about yourself, so the audience gets to know you a little bit, and how did Hair Aid come into like your life?
Awesome. So I am up in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, hairstylist for 18 years, and I love traveling internationally. I've been to 39 countries on 6 continents. I've got my two little rescue dogs at home well, they're not that little, with my husband, and I found Hair Aid about 7 years ago. I saw it posted on Facebook through Tabitha Coffee, who we all know and love. She did a volunteer project with Cambodia about 8 years ago. And I was like, traveling, hairdressing, my two loves, let's combine them together. And from there, I just kind of kept my eye out for a project that worked with my timeline, signed up, and hit the ground running.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. Awesome. So, what exactly is Hair Aid?
So, Hair Aid is an Australian charity that's been around for about 15 years. And what it is they do volunteer-led projects in Cambodia, Indonesia, Philippines, Guatemala, and Thailand. And we teach women basic haircutting skills so that they have the ability to go back to their communities with a way to earn money and put food on their family's table.
Awesome. Awesome. That's awesome. So, how many countries are y'all in?
So we're in 5 countries right now. We're going to be starting Thailand back up again in 2027. When COVID shut down the world in 2020, all of the international projects stopped, and then they've been restarting since then. And Thailand's the last one that we haven't gotten back up and running. So we're excited to be adding that back to the roster. So 5 countries total.
Awesome. This is so cool. So you said that helping women with skills, but Corey told me that he was working with some men inside of a jail.
Yeah, you
So
know what?
can you
That
tell us
that
about
is
that?
that is true. So the original was just typically women, but in the last couple projects we have expanded into men's jail and we welcome men into the training as well. It just is typically the women that are lacking in the skills are able to provide, or we're working often with protected women escaping domestic abuse, sex trafficking, where they're learning new skills. But yes, we do teach everyone, especially depending on the location.
That's awesome. So well, I'm curious, like, I guess, because you're one of the international project leads, so I don't know how involved you are, but like, I just out of curiosity, like, how does this, like, the jail stuff, there, people are concentrated in one place. So that, I mean, I'm assuming that means working with the jails and the government. What about, how, can you tell us a little bit about, like, these other groups? people that, do they work with local charities and local organizations that bring the women together? Can you tell us a little bit about how the structure works, and then I'm gonna ask Corey, like, what was the experience kind of showing up into the space?
Yeah, so we work and partner with on the ground NGOs and charities, not for profits. So Hair Aid doesn't come in and liaise directly with the people that need training. We partner with local groups that already have those connections in the community with people in need. Depending on the country, for example, the Philippines, which I've done. So I've done 5 Hair Aid projects now. The last one I was in Guatemala in October, and that was our 51st project with Hair Aid, and I was the lead for that one. We are newer into that country, so we're partnering with a lot of charities on the ground, whereas the Philippines, we've been there for 13 years. They have an MOU, so a memorandum of understanding with the government, so legal documents with the government, so they partner directly with them. So it kind of depends on the country and how established Hair Aid is and how much partnerships and connections we're able to have and build over the years.
Awesome. So maybe needless to say, but just for clarity for the audience, Hair Aid not only we're gonna kind of learn more and more about it as we go until we can understand what the experience is like, both for the beauty professional as well as the person who is getting this opportunity to learn. But I want to just point out that it's not just hairdressers showing up and teaching people how to do hair. Like, there's a huge operation behind that is mobilizing and putting in tons of time to like build these relationships and these connections. So this isn't just a really great, I mean, yeah, it's a great, cool opportunity to show up and travel and do hair and feel good and see another part of the world. But like, we like to talk about is like what goes on behind the scenes that people don't see on social media. So thank you for giving us a little insight to all the moving parts with international bodies and stuff. So it's a pretty big deal. Awesome. Okay, so Corey, tell us a little bit about like tell us a little bit about your experience.
Um, uh, it's so cliche to say life changing, but Rob, it really was life changing. I think that for a few reasons, my first couple of days that I got that I landed in Cambodia, the first 2 days, I visited. I was in Phnom Penh, but I visited both the Genocide Museum as well as the killing fields. And I think we have to kind of step through that. The genocide was very, very recently. It was within my lifetime, but it started in 1975 and went through 1979. And about 20% of the population was killed during those 4 years. But most importantly, anybody that had any kind of like status in the old government. So that means like any kind of teacher was killed first. The police officers, politicians, anybody that looked like establishment were killed. And I only bring that up because the lack of education in the country is mind blowing. Certainly like whatever like par that we think about education, it's just not really available there, not throughout the entire country. I never got this, and maybe Alana knows better, but I never got the sense that there is a nationalized education system, and so when you go into when you're educating these people, like there's just a different level of even understanding what education looks like. Like you brought up the
Yeah.
prison. Like when we were in the prison, like, some of the guys didn't even understand that like letters meant their name. Some of the guys didn't know if they were left or right-handed because they'd never held like a writing utensil. So
Wow.
this is a different level of like illiteracy. Like we hear about illiteracy, but until you kind of experience it in that sense, it's like it's different, and it's kind of hard to it's hard to comprehend with like a U.S. understanding of what education is. But however, all that being said, I'm so glad it was when I was in Phnom Penh. It was the tough. It was a tough 2 days, but I'm so glad that I did it because it gave me so much perspective. It gave me so much perspective about the country and how incredibly resilient the Cambodian people are. it's a very, very young population. There's very few people that are alive past probably the age of 60. Well, I'm damn close to 60. So, to kind of like when you see somebody that's a little bit older, you honor them a little bit differently. I think, you give them an extra nod or you give them an extra understanding, because there's not one person in that population that's over the age of 60 that hasn't lived through hell. And
Right.
because if you weren't killed, you worked in these camps, or you worked in these agricultural type stuff. And a lot of the people, certainly the people that were evacuated out of Phnom Penh, on Sunday he's an accountant, on Tuesday he's a farmer, and he's like, I don't know how to be a farmer, I'm an accountant kind of thing. But again, you just honor those people a little bit differently, I think. And then when you meet the people, because there's not one person that we met in Cambodia that isn't directly impacted by the genocide. It's just impossible to be. It was too close to it was too close to go. You know what I mean? There's also a different understanding with that, and how incredibly resilient, how incredibly nice, how incredibly warm the people are. And I'm not just talking about the hospitality people. Like they're the easy people, But almost everybody like greets you with a genuine smile and happy to kind of see you. So it impacted me in that sense too. It's like, what are we holding on to? As far as whatever, when you see an entire population of people who have literally been through hell within a generation ago, and just see how warm and open-hearted they are.
Wow. 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 Talk about some gravity right there, man. Oh my
Yeah, I
goodness.
mean, my entire time, dude, was about surrender. Like every time that I started to feel a little bit of like the ick or the whatever, you realize that 99% of the ick that you're feeling is your own ego. So
Totally.
it's a different conversation with your ego. About 2 months before I went to Cambodia, I had a guy on the podcast named Light Watkins. Light Watkins is Meghan Markle's meditation coach. And because he's a meditation coach, he's traveled a lot through Southeast Asia alone. And I asked him for his advice. Is like, give me something. Give me something. What should I prepare for? And he said that he gave me a very like thoughtful 10-second pause, and then he goes, well, my advice to you is to know that you're going to be on two journeys. The first journey is the airports, the excursions, the actual like hair aid project that you're going to go on. He goes, but the real journey that you're on, the one that God needs from you, the one the universe needs from you, the one that the world needs from you, is the one that's going to happen between all those plans. And he says a lot of times it shows up as stress. And he
Mm.
says, my recommendation is that in those moments you stay present. Now, what Light didn't tell me, and what I learned on the trip, is that there is no presence without full surrender. And that's full surrender to everything. It's full surrender to your ego. It's your full surrender. Like I was saying, like even just being an American in the way that things are supposed to be. I gave up everything away that's supposed to be in those moments. And whenever I felt stress, then my reaction was to kind of fall back into like just surrender to it and be present in it. And that's definitely the way that I lived that the entire time that I was there. Because all that other stuff just gets in the way. It just makes things quote unquote worse, you know?
Wow. Wow. This is so good. Okay, so we got like the setups. So Alana, can you tell us a little bit about like what are you doing? You're showing I'm assuming I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm only assuming this because of something that was said before we started the episode. But are you showing up early to like get things ready for folks to arrive? Can you tell us a little bit about like what your part is, kind of like on the front side of this thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a volunteer, Harriet has everything set up for you. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're like, I want to get involved, what does it take? What do you need from me? We can touch on that in a little bit, but basically know that Harriet has everything set up for you. We've done 51 projects. You need to just kind of show up. The hotel's sorted for you, your breakfasts are sorted, your transportation to and from the airport. Like it is a full package deal where like you do not need to worry about any of that. And all of that runs super smoothly because there are people behind the scenes like myself who really enjoy spreadsheets and who really enjoy emailing back and forth and having Trello boards and everything set up of all that coordination. So we are emailing 9 months in advance, 6 months, 3 months, 1 month beforehand with all the on the ground charities, talking to the NGO leads about how much need there is in their community, how many people that they're looking to host, getting all the transportation organized, everything like that. So typically the project lead shows up 5 days to a week beforehand. When I was in Guatemala in October, so I was so fortunate this year to actually do two hair aid volunteer projects. I was with Corey in Cambodia, and then a few months later I was in Guatemala, which as a North American is just a much shorter, quicker flight. But Southeast Asia has a special place in my heart. It is worth the long flight and the time difference. But I show up early. I'm liaising on the ground. I do tours through each of the location to make sure that the facility has what we need, which is very basic. We need a couple tables and a roof over our head is ideal in case it rains, but we don't need any electricity, anything like that, because we are teaching with tools and skills that the trainees are going to have. Often we are teaching very impoverished people who may not have running water or electricity. So we make sure that we're giving them skills that they can use realistically with their current life circumstances. Tours of the location, set up at the hotel. I will check out some restaurants in town, do a little market research that way so that we're having some great food experiences in the evening. And typically we set up a few cultural experiences as well. So in Cambodia, we went to Angkor Wat. In Guatemala, we had a cooking class and a walking tour of the city. So yeah, a lot of that logistical stuff to make sure it runs smoothly.
Robbie, I want to jump in there too. She was talking about the restaurants, and I'm embarrassed to say, but I didn't even realize it until I think it was Thursday of the project, which starts on Monday, but maybe it was Wednesday. It doesn't matter what day it was. But every restaurant that we went to in Cambodia was also an NGO. So they're not just like walking the walk, they're living it, right? So the restaurants that we went to, it was people being trained how to work in a restaurant or in some kind of hospitality, and that to me was very, very cool as well. And the restaurants were killer too, by the way. But that was really cool when I finally realized. I go, oh, we're really doing the thing. We're really trying to make a difference in this culture. It's not like we're just showing up and there's some kind of humanitarian vacation, at moments. And I recommend that you kind of experience that as well. If you're going to fly, literally halfway around the world, you should experience some of that. But actually the week of the project, I was blown away that the efforts that went into supporting, not just our NGO, but the NGOs around Siem Reap. I was really touched by that, to be honest.
This is awesome. So let me give me a play-by-play of what it's like to kind of show up and what maybe day one is. So kind of I can kind of envision it, and the audience can too. So I get on the plane, I fly to destination. You could use Cambodia as the example since you were both. I mean, obviously, Alana, but Corey, you were there as well. So, what happens?
I got there. I flew in the Monday before. So the project's from Monday to Friday. I flew in the Monday before. So I was there for about a week before the project. For a few reasons. One is that I really wanted to enjoy the culture. And then B, it's an 11-hour time change for us, so it was also to get adjusted to the time change before the work actually starts. The first week that I was there, emotionally tough, but it definitely was for me, it felt vacation-y because I was trying to take in as much culture as I possibly could. Now, that being said, when I arrived in Siem Reap on Thursday, and I got to meet up with Alana, that it was really nice to see a Westerner as well, and to kind of hang out. And Alana and I have been friends for a couple of years now, so it's really nice to actually meet up. And she was the first one to really feed me, because when I was in Phnom Penh, I didn't really want to eat. But once I got to Siem Reap, we had an amazing lunch at a pooled noodle place, and I think Alana, Gino, and I ate lunch there, and I think our bill was $12 or something ridiculous, and we.
What is the food like? Just since we're mentioned food a couple times, I feel like, what is the Cambodian food like?
It's extraordinary. It's so good. It's so incredibly fresh. It's kind of tropical. Like I said, we had the pulled noodles with I had it with tofu. They had it with chicken, and then again, it's like this little hole in the wall that's on this corner. But everything in Cambodia kind of feels like a hole in the wall, to be honest.
Is it
But
like
this place,
Thai food a little bit,
well,
or
where it's located, it's kind of located between Vietnam and Thailand. So sometimes when you went in the restaurant, they would ask you like how spicy you want it. Like, do you want it Thai spicy or do you not? Like, I was like, I'm not about like belly issues here in Cambodia, so I'm just going to stick with like as plain. I put that in quotes, as plain as possible. But listen, the food is amazing. I don't think I had a bad meal, you know. And then Alana, she messed us up because on Friday night, which was kind of like our celebration dinner, you know, after the project, we went to this restaurant called Spoons, which I literally could have eaten there every single night because it was the best food I think I've ever had in my life. Actually, this is funny, Rob. So it's Friday. We'll back up and get into the project, but it was Friday night, and it was definitely our celebration. Like, the project's over. We graduated 127 students. You know, you're feeling high on yourself. You're feeling really good. Everyone's feeling good. So, you know, we go out for a celebration dinner to Spoons. And when we arrived, there was literally people waiting at the door that are walking you to your table. Like, they take the napkin out, they put it in your lap, they're reading the menu to you and stuff. And like, I'm like, holy shit, what is this meal going to cost me? Right? Like, because it was the end of the trip. I was out of cash. Like, I was like, what is this trip going to cost me? Well, or what's this meal going to cost me? Because it felt like a $500 meal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think it was $17.
wow.
You know, yeah, and that was definitely the most expensive meal that I had. It was like $17 was the most expensive meal, and I definitely indulged a little bit. You know, I can't even explain to you how like fancy it felt. You know, although that also being said, I do want to be honest. You know, all the restaurants are outside. You know, the hotels that we stayed in were outside. You know, the hotels very much felt like White Lotus to me. You know how it's kind of like this outside thing, and then you kind of go to your. Is that fair, Alana?
Yeah, well, to be clear, the hotel rooms are inside. Like, you do have four walls and a roof.
You're not
And a
exempt.
room. You're not.
The hotel rooms are, but the hotels are like it's almost
It's
like
very
an internal
indoor, outdoor living, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's almost like an internal like motel, right? Like, it's kind of like you just kind of walk to your room, but you're pretty much outside the whole time there. But that also being said, the accommodations were great, and the hotel is an NGO. Same thing, right? So, you know, they're walking the walk. With that, I don't even know how I got here. Okay, so
I wanted to say, I was curious. I just wanted to take a little detour real quick to give a little bit of context.
Yeah.
Which I think you definitely delivered on. Was there something else you wanted to say before I ask my next question?
Well, I was just going to walk into like what my experience was, but it's
Yes,
your show.
please. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So the following Monday morning, we get up. And well, we have a debrief or a pre-brief, I should say. We have a pre-brief on Sunday night. Alana will walk you through what the expectations are for the weekend or for what the week is. I will say this. You have to be fluid. You know, it is a third world country. Certainly, like Cambodia is a third world country. You know, you must remain fluid the entire time. In whatever happens or whatever comes, you just kind of go with it and you move on. So I was very, very fortunate. Like, Alana doesn't know me that well, but my home location was a village school and community center. But there was lots of kids there. It was this great community center. It was a village. It was in, you know, I looked it up on a map, Alana. It is in the middle of nowhere. There's no civilization around it. It's just the people that live there. Like I said, your nerves going into it is like starting a new job, I think. You know, like, you're just like, okay, what is this going to be? But you're also, once again, your head is like, I'm here to serve. Because I'm not like traditionally a hair cutter, I had a little bit of those nerves as well. But Georgie, who was my lead there, was absolutely extraordinary as far as managing me. Because, you know, the one thing that I didn't want to do is I didn't want to be a student. You know, I wanted to be there and I wanted to be able to teach the skill that we were teaching on that day. Hair Aid does an incredible job. Is the night before we go out, they have a video series that they put together. This is the haircut that we're cut. This is the haircut that we're doing, and this is how we do it. I think it's really, really important too to point out that we know, Robert, that you're a great hair cutter. But there is a way to teach the haircuts. They've done 51 projects. There's a way that it's learned. We know that we know that you can do a better haircut, but that's not what's going to serve the people. What's going to serve the people is to get through the skill set the way that we're teaching it. And also it lessens confusion too, right? Because, you know, once you have a language barrier and you have a couple students and you have a couple educators in the room, like, you can't be talking about different stuff. I mean, you teach haircutting, you know, so like take that at the most basic thing and now do it as a second language, right? Back to the community center school. The school teaches English, so almost all of our help that was there were teachers at the school, so they were able to translate for most of it. Now, what I learned on Friday as well is that the actual location that I was in, a lot of the students spoke English as well. They just didn't speak it enough to where they were confident, and they wanted to kind of learn it. And the language is Khmer. They wanted to learn it in Khmer just so they had a better understanding of how to do it. But then it was so weird, like on Friday, where you've been using a translator the whole time, and now you're having conversations when the class is all over. And I'm like, when you tell me you spoke English, you know, like it was bizarre. But you know, that was super, like I said, super fortunate to be in a school. There were little kids there the entire time. And because we're a community center, and I don't know if it's because we were there, because, you know, being 6'1" and white, you know, you certainly are on display there. But I don't know if it was because we were there or what it was. But as the day went on, there were more and more students that were just kind of hanging out at the community center. And again, I don't know if it's because, you know, we were the circus, or because it's a community center, if that's what they did. I don't know, you know, but like I said, everybody was warm. All the kids were warm. The educators were warm, and they really, really appreciated your time there. We taught six haircutting techniques, Alana?
Yeah.
So we taught 6 haircutting techniques over about, they say 5 days, but really it's 4 days because one day is graduation. Like, I don't know if we can teach 6 haircutting techniques in the US in 6 months, you know, but they learned them in 4 days, you know. And the quote that I came up with and that I live by is that when oh shit, I'm gonna mess up my own quote now. That happens. But when opportunity is your only distraction, you learn. You know, there was no, it was such a it was such a welcomed experience where everybody was really focused on their mannequin and how they did their technique. They weren't looking about like, oh, what are they doing over there, or how are they doing it? They really owned the space that they were in, and I would guess because they knew we weren't going to be there the next week. Like, this is the time to learn. Out of those 6 techniques, we each student had to do it twice. So they had to do, and there's no mannequin, so it was all done on live models. So, you know, each student did 12 haircuts in 4 days. Think about that for a second. Think about your first week in hair school and they're doing 12 haircuts. Yeah. And by the way, some of them absolutely murdered it. Like, some of them did incredible. Some of them certainly, nice. When we were at the community center, there was a handful of them that I could have gone and opened a salon with, you know, after 4 days. Like, just you're blown away by the talent and the desire. It's just I was blown away by it, you know, like I can't believe this, you know. They were teaching me by the end of the week, to be honest. So my experience. So the first 2 days I was at the community center, and then on Wednesday, you brought it up, but I worked in a prison for the day, and it couldn't have been a more opposite experience, right? Like, there's no translation. We had no guards, we had no translation, we had, or I should say minimal translation. And the people that you're teaching are again, undereducated on all levels. It was absolutely positively, but absolutely positively the toughest day of my life, but also absolutely positively the most rewarding day of my life. I learned more about Corey and the shoes that he stands in those 8 hours than I could have in a lifetime. You know, there's a lot. We were put in a room. I think there was 12 students. Gino and I fight about this. I keep saying 9. He keeps saying 12, but he was there for 5 days, so we'll go with 12. So we had 12 students, you know, all of them, you know, had a shear in their hand, you know. So every prison movie that we've ever watched is about, like, you know, are you going to get shanked, and, you know, or getting a shank. And here we just gave, you know, 12 guys, like, you know, 6-inch shanks in their hands. So, and it's not a hair salon, right? But it's this long, the room that we were in was this long, thin room with no mirrors, right? So like you're teaching a hair cutting technique. And luckily for that day, we're teaching like a long layer. And, again, I had 12 guys behind me who I couldn't see, all with scissors in their hands, so it took me honestly, about 2 hours of like high level stress about like, oh my God, is this my day to die? And I mean, I did have a co-teacher and a lead there. That was Jerry. Jerry is a 69-year-old woman who's about 5 feet tall. Basically, like if they were like, she wasn't going to be much protection to protect me. And by the way, I wasn't going to be much protection to protect her either. But so, this, and again, not a lot of language, not a lot of cultural crossover. And again, for about 2 hours, I was pretty stressed out. Where I landed was that Gino's been here for a couple of days and he's still alive. So now my goal is not to piss him off. A, and then B, I also was like, you know what? I'm here to serve, man. Get myself out of the way. It just took me about 2 hours to get myself out of the way. I knew that I had to. And here's what I realized, Rob, on the ride back during lunch, was that not one of those guys made me feel that way. Not one of those guys made me feel insecure. Not one of those guys felt like I was in danger. Not one of those guys made me feel, any of those feelings. I brought all those feelings to the room. And then I had to think, like, how often have we brought like brought your feelings to the room and then blame the room for it?
Totally.
Because for about the first hour, like, this is where I was. And then after the 2 hours, I was able to kind of let all that energy go. And then, unfortunately, we went to lunch. After that, we had to clear the prison for about 2 hours for lunch. So we cleared out. And then when I went back that afternoon, it was just a completely different experience because I had kind of removed my head from it, and I was no longer like, worried that I was going to die or get shanked out there or anything. Also, another magical thing that happened was the guys started teaching me the words in Khmer to teach them, so like, again, kind of on my ride home that evening, like it dawned on me that like on a most raw, basic human experience, we're designed to communicate, and we figured it out,
That's awesome.
figured
That's
it out.
awesome.
It was,
Well,
it was so cool.
I know we're coming up on our time here, so I want to be conscious of that, and I want to make sure I get Alana, you to tell us everything we need to know for those of us that are interested in applying or joining or whatever. But before that, I wanted to hear from you since you've done other projects and you mentioned working with women who are in various situations around and the different locations. And I imagine that experience will be a little different than Corey's. So maybe you would like to tell us a little bit about that experience, and then kind of end up in kind of as you finish up that, tell us a little bit about what we need to know to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my 5 projects that I've done. I've done the Philippines twice, Guatemala, Cambodia, and then back to Guatemala. So when I was in the Philippines, I the locations, some of the locations I was at was a drug rehabilitation center for women. And what I had found, it wasn't my place to be asking their experiences and why they were there. But after a couple days, they do get to know you, they do trust you, and they do open up. And what I had learned myself, we have our preconceived judgments of drug use, especially in Canada and the US. And something I also want to say here is like the people that we're teaching, they are in base level poverty. Like you and I have seen poverty and maybe experienced it ourselves, but these are people who often live no running water, no electricity, dirt floors, corrugated rooftops. The size of a standard salon suite would probably house 5 families. Like it is a very, very different level. And for most of these women that I was teaching in the Philippines, this was actually their first formal education they'd ever had in their life. And what I learned was most of the women that were in there via addiction from their pimps from sex trade work. So, at the end of the day, we're teaching them skills that they're able to, now put food on their family's table. We're teaching them, you're not charging $100 for a haircut, but maybe now you can trade your neighbor for a bag of rice. And that's a skill they didn't have at the beginning of the week. And, you know, teaching them that you know, they have the capacity to learn, and teaching them that confidence. And you really honestly see that at the end of the week. A lot of them are very shy, they're very quiet. And at the end of the week, you're teaching, not only teaching them skills, but teaching them that they have the ability to learn, which is so powerful for me, is just helping show someone that their value in that way. That some of these women are, you know, their 40s, 50s, 60s, and at the end of the week on graduation, the party, not the haircut, they get what's called so graduation isn't a given. They have to complete the whole program. So they have to be there for the 5 days. They have to get their haircut signed off. But when they successfully complete the program, they get what's called a business in a bag. Now, Harried is a charity, and 100% of everything that we do is donations. So we ideally would like to get more corporate sponsorships, to get bulk donations of like clippers and capes and combs and scissors and clips and things like that. But as it is, everything's donated, generally individually. But they get what's called a business in a bag. So it's a pencil case with 4 clips, a comb, and a pair of scissors. And with that, they can immediately go out the next day and start making money. And that's an ability they didn't have at the beginning of the week, that you, by leaving your family and your friends and your salon and your job, flying to the other country, like you've helped teach them that. And it's just phenomenal. It's an amazing experience.
That's amazing. And I want to also on just to ask a question that came to my head when you were talking, Corey. The people, I remember, if you told, and maybe I'm misremembering this, but the people that you were teaching, to Alana's point, were these people violent criminals? Or I feel like you told me that a lot of them ended up in where they are for things that they might not end up in jail here.
No, I'm not. No, to be honest, we don't know. You know,
Okay.
I don't know. Nor was it a conversation that I wanted to have. Like,
No, yeah. Okay.
it was like I was there to serve these individuals. I wasn't there to serve their past mistakes, or I wasn't there to serve, anything. I mean, I may have said, it's a third world country. You don't know why they're there.
Okay.
But I don't. And there wasn't even enough, Robbie. There wasn't even enough English to even if they were to tell me,
Totally.
I wouldn't know. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
wasn't going to ask either, because again, it's not why I was there. Like certainly when you're at home at night, you're like, wonder what that guy was there for. Those kind of thoughts that go through your head. But when you're there serving, like, your mindset is just to serve these people as individuals. Certainly when I was in the prison, I wanted to make sure that each one of those guys were seen and believed in, because to Alana's point, I got the sense that they had never kind of been celebrated as individuals. I got the sense that that they had never really been seen as individuals again, and that was more my goal even than to teach them a haircutting technique. Is like, how can we honor them as humans? Because it does feel like maybe they haven't been honored as humans. And
I love
that
this.
might be way too much to even think. And by the way, I also admit that probably 99% of this I'm making up in my own head. It might be my own story that I'm telling. But again, I was there to serve and to worry about why they were there.
Totally.
It was in service.
And incarceration and drug addiction are two things that we all know. I mean, I don't know if we all know, but I feel like if we don't know, we probably know somebody who knows somebody who's dealt with one of those things, if not both. And we understand that there's a life on the other side of that stuff as well. And they still are human. And so I love this like real human experience that y'all are talking about, whether it's what Corey's talking about or what you, Alana, are you're talking about, going in and like helping somebody be able to go out and make money for the first time, doing something new, only after being with them for a week. That sounds so fulfilling, and I love this has been great. So, all right, sorry,
Hold
I
on, Rob.
jumped
Though
in.
I do want to add something into this as well, because I think we
Okay.
have to talk about this. And whenever you do humanitarian work, whenever you do this kind of thing, there's always this thought in your head is, are you making a difference? Are you really making a difference? And I think a little bit of that is ego, a little bit of that is imposter syndrome. Well, I will tell you that um, on Thursday, I was able to work in this hair salon that was there, and they close down every year, and they invite Harry to come in and teach at the hair salon. A woman that started that, her name is Sotherin, and Sotherin is a 2018 graduate of Hair Aid. So, as you're standing in that salon, you go, am I making a difference? And then you watch, like, first off, you see her, and you see that she's actually built a business out of nothing, where, again, she would have never had that opportunity. And I talked to her about it, and she said she would have never had the opportunity without Hair Aid. And as a payback to Hair Aid, is she shuts down her salon for a week every year that Hair Aid is there, and she opens it up to the community, for the community to come in and train. She continues to train Hair Aid techniques with her staff now, two of her staff that she's trained. She's also placing people all around Siem Reap. So, if they leave her salon, they go to different salons. So that's helping the community. And two of the people that she trained have actually gone out and opened their own salon. So it's these ripples that are really like growing and getting bigger. And like Alana was saying, we've been or Harry's been in the Philippines for so long that they have their own like training systems and stuff there as well, which I find absolutely remarkable. And that's the real impact that you're making, and that's the community impact that you're making. So it's not just you're not just like impacting the people that you're training, but there's the potential to help the entire community. And I got to see that. And that was as emotional as anything, is to watch the success that's there, not just the people that you're training.
It's awesome. Oh, this has been so good. So, Alana, is there anything else that you'd like to share before you tell us what we need to know to get involved?
Yeah, just that the Corey's right. There is so many success stories from Harried. Having been back to the Philippines twice and Guatemala twice, I have met people in Philippines that had been so in the Philippines, because they've been there for so long. They actually have previous Harried trainees who have been successful and maybe gotten jobs in salons. Maybe they have a salon out of their house. They come back and they act as our translators for our projects, which is just so cool. So you get to hear so many stories of people who, they've put their kids through school, because we all know that education is how you break the poverty cycle. And that's something to touch on there just really quickly, is that in a lot of these places, the government is investing in education, at least from like a K-6 kind of thing, and it's all uniformed. So there is a dress code, especially for boys. Hair doesn't touch the ears, hair doesn't touch the neck, a very military style. And the families know the importance of school. So if there is a choice between getting your kid a haircut and buying a bag of rice to feed your family, the family will get the kid a haircut so that they can go to school and hopefully better their life for the entire family. So
Wow.
even just having people in the community who know how to do a very basic little boy's haircut and then cut the community's hair so that the kids can go to school, like that is literally what we are teaching and the difference that it's making.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. This has been I got goosebumps a couple of times just during this conversation. The gravity of your experience plus the impact that you're making, this sounds incredible. So what do we need to know? What does the audience need to know in order to, like, if they're interested and curious for how to get involved? What do they need to
So,
know?
so the first thing you need to know is that you have the capacity to do it. Already, you could still be in hair school right now. We have had people in Guatemala who they had graduated hair school 2 weeks earlier, and for their kind of graduation, they came and volunteered with their teachers. So you have the capacity. You do not need to be an educator. You do not need to be a in your mind. I mean, we're all our own worst critic. You don't need to be a fantastic hair cutter. You don't need 20 years of experience or professional educator training. You already have the capacity to do it. What you would need to do is pop online to the Hair Aid website. I'm sure you'll put those in the show notes, and see what our upcoming projects are. And put a deposit on, and throw your hat over the fence. Then you have to go get it. And if you ever want to chat to someone about it, I'm here, Corey's here. It's out of your comfort zone, especially if you haven't done any international travel. So don't get me wrong, I understand that it's intimidating and it seems crazy to do, and you're not sure if you want to, but get a friend, bring her with you, bring them with you. But just know that you have the capacity to do it, and the difference that you will make, not only in the lives of the people you will teach, but in your own life, is something that you can't comprehend until potentially years down the road. But I just do it. That's my advice.
That's awesome. So are the trips like are they do they range in the cost, the amount of days it is, and how many are female only versus male only? Can you give us a little bit of that information?
Yeah, so the trips are all ballpark the same price. It kind of depends a little bit based on the hotel that we're staying at. So all the hotels are tourist grade. So there's air conditioning, there's hot water showers, breakfast is included. You are safe. You're in a safe, clean environment. Typically, it's about $1,500 US for the volunteer cost, which includes your accommodation, your breakfast, your transportation to and from the airport, transportation to and from the locations, all on the ground logistics like the translator costs, things like that. And then the cost of your flights yourself as well is a separate cost. And most people who volunteer with Harry do fundraising, whether that be a GoFundMe, whether that be a raffle in the salon, whether that be an event that you host, things like that. But for the vast majority of people who do Harried, they get their clients involved. Your clients are going to really want to support you and help you with this. So most people do fundraise for it.
Awesome. Cool.
And
Great.
daytimes, so the project is from Monday to Friday, but we do
Okay.
recommend that you fly in no later than Sunday morning and don't leave, ideally late Friday night, early Saturday morning at the
Just go with
earliest.
Saturday. You don't want to miss the
Yeah.
Friday meal, man. Come on.
Yeah, and it's nice to come in a couple days early and get to know people, but the official project is Monday to Friday.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I would definitely fly out on Saturday. Like for one, you kind of want to be you want to be with your new family a little bit,
Mhm.
and Robbie, there's no doubt about it. And Alana, don't kill me for this, but it's a tough week, man.
Oh,
It's a
it's
tough week.
not a vacation.
No, it's not. It's a tough week.
How many hours are you like engaging in the work?
It feels like a work day.
Okay.
Like when I was in the village, that was about a 40-minute ride. So, we were definitely the first ones to leave and the last ones back. When I was at the prison, we got back way early. And we had way early to what it felt like being in the village. And we had like a 2-hour lunch. That was at the prison, but I assume that was all mandated by the prison about the hours that we could be there, for that. But back to my original point is that I think you need that time to celebrate with the people that you just spent the week with, and because now you're celebrating in glory, and you're not, it's not, because we debrief every single night, like what were the wins of the day, kind of thing. But to really be able to bond with the people, I mean, there were some people there that, although we were together for a week, I didn't talk to until Friday, and it was just because you're just so busy, with the activities, there and we had 21 people, so we kind of jumped around a little bit. But I would definitely recommend flying out on at least at Saturday. But I'm also a big fan of, like, you stay an extra couple days, certainly if you're going to fly to
Yeah.
Southeast Asia, enjoy it a little bit, while you're there on the after hours. And there's so much culture and stuff that I got to do, both with Hair Aid and adjacent to Hair Aid as well. It's just it's mind blowing, the emotional journey that you go on, both in like celebration and in like, time to do some work, both of those. But anyways, yeah, I would definitely try to stay as long as you can.
Awesome. And are most of the trips female only, or they are there some male would like, can you give us a little tell us about that?
Yeah, so no, all of the projects are open
Oh,
to
okay.
male and female. We would always love to have a couple more barbers on the trip because it is
Okay.
um It's always great to have someone who has a little bit more experience in that. Specifically in Bali, there's actually a men's jail that we go to regularly. We've created a separate barbering program for that, and that the Philippines wants to launch as well. So that would be actually not the basic 5 haircuts, like the straight, the layer, everything like that. It's a strictly 5-day barbering program. So would love people to come in on that, but it's totally open. The only stipulation is sometimes we have a situation like in Cambodia where one of our locations was a protected location of women who had been rescued, and males were not allowed on that site. So from a logistics standpoint of the back end of the project lead, we just had to make sure that that was respected and coordinated. But we've never had any projects that aren't inclusive to welcoming both male and
Oh,
female
okay.
hairdressers.
Got it. I know we have some stuff that happens here in DC, and it's
Yeah.
only women can participate
Mhm.
for the same reason. They're protected spaces and domestic abuse. So
Mhm.
that's why I asked that
Yeah.
question. Awesome. Cool. Well, this has been amazing. Is there anything last remarks you want to say before we sign off?
Yeah, Robert, when are you signing up?
I was just thinking about that. I was just thinking about that. I would have to plan like 2 years out. So I guess
27.
2027.
I think we should put it out there. Corey, are you with me? January 2027, we can make that work.
January 2027?
Yeah.
What is January?
We're gonna do Thailand. Thailand, January
Ooh.
2027.
Ooh.
I mean, put a pin in it. Just think
Oh,
about it. But
let's definitely pin that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. I would definitely. I thought my next trip would be Guatemala, but maybe Thailand might be the way.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and I could always stay a couple weeks there as well.
Right.
So Sammy and I are having conversations about when we're going to start trying for kids. So that's the only reason why I hesitate. But
You should
we
start
definitely want to
trying
go.
in Thailand in 2027, Rob.
Well, then we would need to. That
Uh,
actually timeline might be exact. We're talking about between November and January of next year to start trying. So,
there
There
you
you go.
go.
well, next
And
January 27. So yeah, there you go.
that's something too. Like spouses are welcome if they want to join the trip. We have people used for admin work. We can teach you how to cut hair. We can teach someone to help us cross check. So occasionally we do have
Alana, can
someone
I
who
ask you,
brings
how
that
does
on.
that work out? How does that work? So like if like I wanted to bring like a non-hairdresser spouse with me,
Yeah.
do they pay like how does the money work out with that?
Yeah, you still pay the same volunteer cost because that covers the all of the accommodation
And stuff,
and
yeah.
translator and things like
And
that. So
insurance and all that
yeah,
good stuff. All
insurance,
right.
everything like that.
All right, cool. Cool.
Cool. Well, shoot, I guess that's what we're doing. So we're putting our calendar together for 2026. So we'll make sure to pour over into 2027.
Perfect. Well,
What
I want to say thank you so much for having us here today, like, and giving us the opportunity to share, as Corey and I to say, the gospel of heritage, share the good word, and to your audience who potentially has never heard of it before, because it is a phenomenal organization. And let me tell you, if you are experiencing burnout, if you're experiencing troubles at home, if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, anything like that, this will fill your cup in a way that you can't explain. So I really appreciate having the opportunity to come in here and chat about it with you and with Corey.
It's been an honor and a pleasure. So I appreciate and I know the work that you're doing. I can look at pictures and see it looks awesome, but like hearing the context and the back end, all the work that goes into it, the feels that come out of it, it really definitely kind of like I feel like it landed the plane for me. So thank you so much.
Rob, thank you, man. Thank you, brother. Thanks for
Uh,
always looking out, man.
Absolutely. All right. Well, until next time, I will talk to you before Thailand. All right.